You want weapons? We got weapons. A few of them in this draft. That's kind of where I'm leaning tonight. Welcome to RGR Football. We're going to break it down. I'm in the middle of a snowstorm, so you might see some variations in the connection here, but Dan's going to lock it down. Welcome to RGR Football. He's Dan Arms. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is RGR Football. We're going to break down the Chiefs, everything we know about them that's going on, and obviously heavy draft cycle. If you are not already looking at rogueapc.com, the Matrix is out. Use the code RGR and you can get a discount right now. I'll have a giant update for that coming as the last of the pro days are tomorrow or Wednesday. And all that data comes in. I'll have updates there. I've begun putting the draft guide together. I'm not going to beat KCSN. Theirs is out in a couple of days. Go support KCSN as well. Those guys are great.
We do that.
But our draft guide is on its way. So make sure you get subbed over there and check out NFL 33 because I'm going to put some little nuggets of how I break down production into like quarterbacks and edges and all that stuff up on NFL 33. And a announcement. I have content coming to this channel tomorrow night and another chunk of it on NFL33.com. I'm sorry, you got to go sub to see it. With former GM and NFL Executive of the Year, Randy Mueller, who joined me for a long discussion about team building and how the Chiefs got a dynasty started. It's awesome stuff. He's an amazing dude. He's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. And I think you guys are really going to dig it. So make sure you get, if you don't know who we are, you want to click the sub button right now. That's Avery, the star of the show. She's in her dressing room. We might see her later. We'll see. So obviously the elephant in the room, folks, is wide receiver got himself in a little bit of hot water. Luckily, I'm sorry, didn't mean to hit that, Patrick. I'm going to come back to you, though, buddy. As we understand today, the fall from Rashee Rice that started yesterday, I have no update on anybody being injured or anything that came from any hospital stay. So that's first and foremost the number one thing. Some bad decision-making went on, but at least it sounds like nobody got seriously hurt. We'll see what the fallout is, and I know it's going to be on everyone's mind. I will say this. And we don't have to go into it deeply, but I think on the outside possibility that there is probably a suspension involved. This is not a Henry Ruggs situation, folks. Stop making that analogy. It's not even close. But in that vein, if something were to happen, maybe it's not this incident, but somebody does something at some point, whether it's Hollywood or someone else, this wide receiver group is fragile, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that they need to change their attack yet again, and I do think pressing deep is coming back into vogue because I think if you put enough speed on the field, you can beat some of this cover 3, cover 4, cover 6 cloud. We're going to stand on the other end zone kind of stuff. But I do think that it is not only possible that the first draft pick is now a wide receiver, but the third might be as well. Am I crazy?
I think you're a little crazy, but that's not because I don't think they shouldn't take 2. I still think they should take 2. It's mostly because I'm not going to be speculating on what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. I'm not going to do any of that because we literally have zero information still. We have nothing. We have zero proof of anything. So everyone who wants to show around the dash cam footage, you can't prove anything. You cannot tell me that 100% is Rashee Rice. And that's not me saying that because I'm a Chiefs fan. No, that's me saying there's no visual evidence. And that's what this all comes back to. Wait, be patient, let everything come through. Now, we now know that Rashee is fully cooperating with local law enforcement, which was expected, right? Like all of that was expected. So let's go ahead and get this question right out the way because Jeremy, went ahead and put it there. All right. So what's your speculation of the type of penalty NFL will impose on Rice and when beginning of the season mid or when he's charged, all stuff like that. So this, like I said, is at the forefront. We'll talk about it now. I'll be honest with you guys. I've based off of the little information that we know, nothing. We have no information. We know nothing. We know nothing. So, like I said, I'm not going to speculate until we get more information. But the big thing to note here are 2 things. One, it's hard for young players coming from a certain lifestyle, and obviously there were things that were said about Rashee Rice more in like notes. Nothing specific was ever said about anything ever at all about his background. There was just concerns. Well, that could mean a whole lot of things. But from what I understand, it's not easy to just get out of the life you used to live or be friends with the people you used to be friends with when your money and your lifestyle changes. It's a different thing. He comes into the league, you know, he works hard as a rookie. All that hard work pays off. They win a Super Bowl. Things change, right? You go back to where you grew up and hang out with your old friends. You've got money. You rent a Lamborghini. You know, things change. Bad decisions get made. This was a very poor decision. Obviously, extremely poor decision. You don't do things like this, specifically if anywhere with a ton of cars around at all,
Right.
like that. Like, why? There's zero reason to do any of this. So all of that being said, I'm glad that we're not seeing reports of more serious injury, anything like that. We're getting reports about, you know, minor. So that's great news. That's fantastic news that everyone is seemingly okay. And that's what matters at this point. Wait for more information. That's all I'll say.
Especially the kids that were in those other cars that didn't get blown up. Nobody got, you know, no rolling of vehicles, but yeah, kids can get hurt. So yeah, I'm completely with you. That's just irresponsible. There's no other way around that. But we can't, that's for the NFL to try to sort out, give some support, give some better training to some of their young millionaires as they come in the league. That's part of it. I can't do that, but I can help in terms of reinforcing.
And
that.
just really quickly, Tracy, I'm not saying to give Rashee Rice a break. I'm not. I literally have not said anything about what to do with the situation at all. That's exactly because we have no information. Period. Nothing. So I'm not going to speculate.
Once we get there, we'll see. Minotaur, thanks for the memberships. Thank you to everyone in the chat who's taking advantage of those. That's awesome. And Jeremy and Ruthless and Doc, thanks for pointing those out. Appreciate you guys. We are going to get to your questions. This show is mostly on Monday nights all about your questions. I always start with the topic like we had to tonight to get that out of the way. Now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. If you want on the show tonight, we'll put you on screen, throw a super chat in there. Every super chat gets an answer. We'll try to do our best to answer the rest of the topics as well. But a lot of it's going to be draft oriented. So let's get right into it. The first question of the night was free agency. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate. Lee's one of our original members. Members get all the extra stuff, including an extra discount code on all the draft guides. That's going to be in there, as well as the extra content, the rants, et cetera, et cetera. Would you sign a free agent wide receiver like Boyd or OBJ right now, knowing that just today the transaction finally went through and there's cap room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly would still like to bring OBJ in myself, regardless of what they do in the draft. I think that what he did last year shows that he's still got some juice in the tank and he can actually come in right now and step in as their X receiver. Like he can play X, have zero issues. He can get open. He's still using his deep speed last year, and he'd be another year removed from injury, which is always a fantastic thing, even for a 30-year-old receiver. You know, he's not just a bum. Like I initially thought he was kind of toast last year. Prove me wrong. Like he's much better than I expected him to be. So absolutely, think that he's worth looking at. Boyd is a slot only guy, and the Chiefs are roster clogged at slot, so not really Boyd for me.
Okay, and that's perfectly fair. I think the knee on OBJ at the timing and his age slowed that hey, well, you need to get to the second year post surgery before it really is back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was part of the delay, and so I'm with you. I could see that. It's got to be a team friendly contract. Let's be real, but I do think the Chiefs want to add veteran experience as well as raw athleticism, raw capability. I think a nice balance of both is coming. So I would, Lee. I think we both take that on. And since wide receiver will be the pick before the Chiefs make a selection with a running back, would you go with one that can catch the ball? And Joe, I think that's a precursor to any running back in this offense, no matter what. That's why I brought up Cam Akers is a possibility that's still out there in free agency. I think we both wouldn't mind seeing that. My guy that I have been very, very mellow on so far, but is one of my favorites in this class, is Shipley from Clemson. He just ran at his pro day because he didn't run at the combine and is sub 4.4, which makes me smile. We know he can catch and do everything he needs to. So, like, if he's in the 4th round, like, I might break my own principle and be like, let's go snatch him up.
It'd be fun. I think that he can do everything. I have some questions about his durability specifically and fumbles. Like, he's not a big back. He's not like a bad in between the tackles back either. Clemson's offensive line last year was awful. He's got very good vision, but it was legitimately awful. He was met in the backfield a lot, and he's not the best pass protector, but let's be honest, he couldn't have been worse than Isaiah Pacheco was coming out of Rutgers. And he was not good, and he's been turned into a serviceable pass blocking running back. I think they do a pretty good job of developing. Clyde even got to a point where he was okay in terms of pass protection. Not great, but you can get by. And I think it's all about really want to. And Will Shipley does everything you would really want from a running back. And he's got like 4.4, 4.39 speed. So yeah, I'm okay on that. Always get someone who can catch the football. You need it in today's game.
Regardless, yeah, no matter what, it's a prereq. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you. Caroline, nice to see you. And I know that I dropped you an email a few weeks ago and I didn't follow up on it. We'll still get back to that, I promise you. What are your thoughts on the OT out of Yale? Kieran, if tackles have a run, is it a possibility to draft a CB at 32, or would you trade back? For example, if McKinstry falls. I don't know if McKinstry's going to fall. He might just be a 40s or a high 30s guy. Unfortunately, the problem with Yale, and Dan, you correct me if you know something I don't, I have zero film on him. He hasn't run. I don't even have data on him to put him in the matrix. So the problem is just a total lack of information on him other than little tiny clips like from a 17-year-old camera, a flip phone camera. It's all I've been able to see of him.
Yeah. Don't have any eyes on him at all. Zero tape, no broadcast, nothing. We have zero anything. I've only heard about him. Like, I've only just heard about his ability. And he's 100% developmental. There is no starting right now. He cannot play in the NFL right now. Period. End of story. There is no starting. He's going to probably get drafted on day 2, probably in round 3, because he's an upside kind of pick. Maybe even the 4th round. I don't know, because I don't have any tape. I can't even tell you what round I'm going to project him in because I don't really know. But all I can tell you is that he cannot start. So if the Chiefs want to draft him, if a team wants to draft him, they have to have someone in place that can do that right now, which is why I'm still, if the Chiefs don't take a tackle on day 1, I said it on the radio a few weeks ago. I think that Donovan Smith is going to be your starter at left tackle.
Yeah.
It's looking more and more like that every day.
I think that's the back pocket thing that they just been riding it out, knowing they got a side deal with him. Like, hey, man, you want to come back and help us get us to the 3-peat? Don't sign with anybody, but we're going to let you sit out camp. We're going to call you in September and say, hey, start warming up, bro. That works okay. On your second part, though, Caroline, I could get down if the best player available on the board that fits it at 64 is a cornerback. I can live with that. I can't avoid both wide receiver and tackle at 32. I got to take the best available of those two positions at 32 if it's me. But I do like a number of corners in this group. I think there's going to be athleticism late that you can try to train up. Just saw a report today that there's only 3 guys that worked out Max Melton because most teams feel that he's a day 3 prospect. Music to my ears. So rock and roll. Yeah. I'll trade back and get him.
Our guy EJ's tape review of him is very enlightening as well. He was very high on him. So that matching with your athletic score, I'm just like, day 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay! Welcome to the show. By the way, 4th round is where they took L'Jarius Sneed, and look what happened. So I am all for that. But we'll see what happens, Caroline. It definitely, I do think that just because L'Jarius is gone doesn't mean they have to go spend a top 100 on a corner. But I don't think it precludes them from doing it if that's the best guy that they can take at the time as well. Yeah. I don't know. I'm hopeful they can trade out of picks. I just don't know if anybody's going to help them.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't mind trading back and then maybe Again, if that situation were to occur, I like Kool-Aid. I think he's the best man-to-man corner in this class. And I think he could be a one for, not right away, but replace what you're getting from L'Jarius Sneed in terms of man coverage, going to play physical, will come down and tackle.
Yep.
That's what he will
All
do.
those
And
things.
he will fit right into this defense right away.
And let's be real, L'Jarius wasn't L'Jarius until about 2.5 seasons in.
Exactly.
And he wasn't this good until this season.
No. It was when he decided, when he went to, when he went to Spags, I want the number ones. I want them. And that was when we saw L'Jarius Sneed take off.
Yeah. So like that evolution path is perfectly fine for me. Oh, sorry. Got Terry's. With the money that we got from Sneed trade, what free agents would you like us to sign? We talked about OBJ before. I think there's a bigger thing just staring us in the face, and you've talked about it before. Who would you sign first?
Mike Dana's going to come back, y'all. Looks like there's some momentum building too. So, yes, bring my boy back.
I am all for that. I said the same thing on Locked On Chiefs just today. Quinn, with Rashee's situation, the wide receiver become a bigger need over tackle? I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think just by a hair it has for me. Only because at 32, or even if you traded up to say 24, you're still unlikely, in my opinion, the way that I'm seeing things fall, to take a tier 1 or a tier 2 tackle. Even at 24, I think you're into the tier 3, tier 4 guys. Yet you can get a tier 2, better graded, better prospect wide receiver at those same selections. So I think value-wise, unless you're willing to trade up into the mid-teens or higher, I don't think you're going to get a prospect that is as good, apples to apples, as the receiver you can get there.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I was actually talking to Damian Parsons. You guys, if you've heard me talk about it a few times, he works over at TDN, about the tackle class on day 2, and it's a lot of right tackles that are actually good players. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right. There's not many left tackles after the first round that you're like, yeah, you can play, you can start right now. There's some projectable guys. We talk about Kieran. Patrick Paul out of Houston is another traits-based guy, but I don't think he can start right now. Nope. You're starting to get into the weeds at tackle, and that's where I proposed, well, maybe this is the year we see Juwan Taylor play left tackle. Maybe it is. And they just say, well, we can't get a tackle that we want and that we like in the first round at left. Juwan, you're going to have to be open here. You're going to have to play left tackle for us, because we can get a very good right tackle to come in and be a starter. There's multiple guys. Roger Rosengarten. I forgot how to pronounce his name. Rosengarten out of Washington. There's Blake Fisher, who I have a day 2 grade on, who's a fantastic technician-based player. Javon Foster out of Missouri. Like, there are a lot of right tackles that they could draft and say, play right now.
Yeah, go get it.
There aren't any left tackles. So I think just based on the top heaviness of the left tackle position in this class, it is beginning to look like, and this isn't even without, like I said, I'm not going to speculate on the Rashee Rice situation. I'm just going to tell you how the draft is going to play out. Right. I think wide receiver becomes the better value unless you see one drop and you can go get them. But if you're sitting at 32, you're going to take a wide receiver based on what you're looking at.
If Fa'u Tanu hits 18, like, I'm screaming on every phone line I can find to get to the Rams at 19 to go get him. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I think he is a little overinflated by a lot of the mock machines right now, because I do think teams are going to have a little bit more wariness with his weight and his play style and whether he is truly going to be able to stay at left tackle. I am confident in that, and I'll take the scrappy dude at left tackle that in my opinion, is more athletic than Eric Fisher was when he started. But I don't know if a lot of teams will. So we'll find that out. But I'm totally with you. And I'll say this, even if they do, even if it's a Guyton, even if it's like you mentioned, Paul, two guys that I do like, you could flip Juwan, let Wanye start on what I think is a little bit more of a natural right side for him, and let your draft pick be the swing until you figure everything else out. And I think that's perfectly acceptable way to go into the season.
Yeah, I got no problems with that. You got to, honestly, you got to take players and let them develop where they're probably most comfortable. I think Juwan can play both right or left, and you're probably going to get the same player. Wanye is going to be best at right tackle because we saw him at left tackle last year. Good run blocker, not a good pass protector. And I think he'd be much more comfortable at right tackle. And then again, maybe you take someone that's an athletic upside kind of player and you say, okay, can you play left? Can you play right? Where are you comfortable? And you figure it out. And then you start your best 5. Because again, that's all that matters here. It's all that matters.
I'm completely with you. I would like more athleticism at left just to give Patrick a little bit more time so he doesn't have to run around.
And the Chiefs do too. And the Chiefs do too. Like let's be honest. Like that's what they want.
Yeah. Scott, good question. Are Sky and Tony roster locks after this news? Sky was always a roster lock, just like Clyde. Even if he's not performing, a draft pick of that selection, they're not going to cut ties when he's cheap.
No.
And Tony, right now, you don't save anything. But if Rashee were to miss any time, yes, there's no way they're getting rid of Tony. I just want to pour on speed. That right now, as long as you can catch the ball consistently and you can run, I'm in the wheelhouse. So that unfortunately still isn't that many dudes. But the ones that are there are pretty good flyers. Mr. Anderson, sorry, I'm channeling the Matrix now. What two wide receiver and 2 offensive line in the draft? If you went 2 and 2, where are you at? I can run this down right now.
Yeah, I mean, first, again, I've been a wide receiver in the first round for a while. So, again, wide receiver first round, tackle second round, and then I'm probably going to take a wide receiver in the third. And then I'm going to take a guard / interior guy on day 3 in round 4. That's how it's working for me. But again, that's going to be based on how things work out. If corner's there in third round, probably take a corner in the third and then a wide receiver on day 3 somewhere. There's going to be good players there as well. You have some need there. So corner starts to get different depending on who falls and who's there. So it's more of just how the board ends up falling. But that's, if I were to prioritize it, that's how I would do it.
I'm with you. Wide receiver, tackle, something, and wide receiver again. I have my eye on Cowing in the 4th round. I like him and I like his fit. Again, a little jammed up at slot. But
I wonder if Thrash falls into day 3 because I think Thrash would be fun too.
I think Juwan Jackson will be there from Tulane. I like him as well. Guys that you're not expecting to have to be number 1s ever.
Hell, Brendan Reichs might even be on day 3, and you could be like, "Hey, we just go grab ourselves an X," and be like, "Yeah, okay,
figure it out. Call your dad, start working. Let's go." But yes, but if it's 2 and 2, the guy that I have my eye on, unfortunately, it looks like teams are starting to catch on to how much I like him, is Pooney from Kansas. I'm hearing more and more that he's not going to be available when the Chiefs pick him the 3rd. So I don't know if I can spend I don't know if I can spend 64 on him though.
No, I can't. I can't do it specifically. Okay, I will take this back. I could talk myself into it if they took a wide receiver in round 1 and they just said, we're going to go ahead and play a guy who's got 5 position flexibility and we'll figure it out. Because again, he can play everywhere. And that's extremely valuable in today's NFL. And that's why we're seeing him shoot up boards. He showed his versatility at the Senior Bowl, not only playing, inside, but snapping and playing center. He's not just survived at tackle in his last season at college. He was good enough, more than good enough. I already had a 4th round grade on him at just pure left tackle. Thought that he'd be a better day 2 guy inside, but having that flexibility just gives you so many possibilities. I could talk myself into it based off of Andy Heck and the Chiefs' success at offensive line. If you didn't have Andy Heck, I wouldn't be able to talk myself into it.
I can hear what you're saying because, like you said, he could be swing across the entire offensive line, and eventually, whether it's the retirement of Joe Thuney, the parting of ways with Trey Smith, that is definitely a possibility, or Juwan Taylor's contract running out, you can still see on his rookie contract that he becomes a starter at some position on this line. So I hear where you're coming from. And I would love, after having, K-Stater, Mizzou guys, I'd love to see a Jayhawk on this roster that actually gets to get on the field. It's just a little personal thing of mine. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Appreciate you. Does veteran wide receiver signing come into play with the Rashee news? We think it was probably in play in general already, but it's certainly a possibility. I don't know if it's any more so now or not, but it was on the table to begin with. With cap space, will Mekhi Becton be worth a shot at left tackle, even if they are out of touch? Who are your draft crushes? I will not sign Mekhi Becton. Period. The money required to do it is a 50-50 proposition whether you'll get the playing time out of it to warrant it.
If you can get him for the Donovan Smith contract, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Okay, fine. He's coming off of what? 18 a year? No, 16 a year?
I don't really care. He hasn't played a full season ever. I don't care.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly. I just don't know if he'd sign for a Donovan Smith contract is my point.
What team is going to say, hey, here's $10 million guaranteed? There isn't one.
I don't know.
Nobody.
So there's some stupid teams out there. I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I have the LSU Iowa game on too because this is amazing college basketball, and Caitlin Clark is insane. She's incredible. She is so good.
That's awesome. We're just going to hear Dan randomly shouting at the screen there. That's fine. Biggest need, wide receiver CB, OL, DL. Who's your dream in the first round? I mean, I don't dream, but I would love to see Fautanu fall into striking distance again for all the same things that we just said about Pooney plus some.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm still on wide receiver first, but if they're, I don't think they can get Fautanu. I don't think they can do it. I think he's going to go in the top 20. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to get to him. But there's a couple other players that I've been having, eyes on. If I can remember, I like Kingsley Suamatia a lot, and I would take him at 32. If he's there at 32, okay, I'm taking him at 32. I am, because he played right tackle, he played left tackle. He has the lineage in his blood. He is cousins. He is cousins with an all-pro tackle from the Detroit Lions. You may have heard of him. But after
the Senior Bowl,
I thought he had a really good Senior Bowl. I liked his Senior Bowl. I did not.
I thought he was iffy in places. Like, I could see him in the top 50,
but
I don't think I could do places, it.
But we're talking about an Eric Fisher type player, someone who played zero competition, who was up and down. You're drafting him based off the athletic traits, and he's a very good scheme versatile player. I think he can play.
True.
And specifically, BYU plays a lot of zone. So we come in and he already know what they do run game wise, and he wouldn't have an issue with there. And he's an athletic guy who can do the jump sets, the 45, the verticals. He has all that. So there's less of a learning curve for him. But he also, if you bring back Donovan Smith and you say, you want to start for us, we'll bring Kingsley along. I got zero problem with that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And then you got one name from Juwan, and like everything's you're doing to the tackle position what you did to the corner position, and you got a pipeline.
Exactly.
I'm 100% for that. Thanks, Cody. Jonathan, would you rather have Ladd at 32 or trade back to the beginning of the second and take Byron Murphy from Texas to pair with Chris Jones? Unfortunately, I don't think you can trade back and get Byron. You would need to trade up. Byron's a top 20 pick in this draft, I think. All
like 15, you have to trade up like 15 spots to get Byron Murphy.
Yeah,
he's probably going top 15 if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's my thought as well. At least top 20. But I do like Ladd. I would only trade back if I got another top 100 pick out of trading back. And I would like my normal thing, I would not trade out of the 30s. So it's got to be 39 or better, and I got to get a top 100 pick on top of it. Some teams will do it.
That's it. Exactly. It depends on who's there, who teams want. You can usually coax a top 100 pick out of somebody if someone's there desperately that they want enough. You usually can do that. So you just gotta play the board. And at the end of the day, I'm cooling a little bit. Cooling more on Ladd at 32 specifically. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the yak potential that everyone keeps trying to say is there. I understand that he tested well, but I don't see it consistently on tape. I see a guy who's going to be a really good like stick and chain mover, and I don't necessarily know if his speed translates as a take the top off kind of guy, because again, Georgia didn't really do that. So it's more just trying to feel out what he's going to be able to do and project that he can do more, just like a lot of Georgia Alabama receivers that come out that aren't developing enough. So it's just got to figure that out.
Yeah, Wolfpack is on kind of the same trajectory here.
Same one, yeah.
As a trade down pick, so meaning if they trade back to 39, yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I like Ricky Pearsall
Absolutely.
in that range as well. I think they do some similar things, but some different things that I think maybe fits the offense a little bit more. Yeah, you still watching Caitlin?
She just did it again. Oh my God. Awesome. Ricky Pearsall, go back and watch, you guys. If you haven't watched it, go back to 2022. He played with Anthony Richardson at Florida, and his average depth of target was like 17 yards. So he was actually used more as a downfield threat in that offense. And then this past year, they were like, hey, Ricky, our offense is awful. Our quarterback's bad. Just get open. And he did it all. So that's where I can say, okay, I see it. I see the downfield threat, and he tested way better than he played in 2023 because he wasn't asked to do it. It was different. So he's going to be a guy that goes a lot higher than people expected, but it's because it's paired with his 2022 and his 2023 film.
You got to take a look at the career. And that's the one thing that we're going to give you in the draft guide that I do that most people don't. I don't just rate everybody on their senior season or their last season, whatever it is. You're going to get career numbers from me as well, and that goes into the formula. Sam Hartman's a better quarterback than a number of guys on this thing because of his career, because of what he did prior to going to Notre Dame. But that's part of the equation. There's an up and a down from it. You can see Dan's expression. He couldn't care less about that stuff, but it's going to be in there. So you get a little bit of the pluses and the minuses. Thanks, Wolfpack. Baker in round 2, yes or no? I'm a yes. Donnie, it's a great question. And Dan will answer because I haven't watched Baker yet.
Oh, okay. Javon Baker in the second round. I mean, we're talking the end of the second round. So, yeah, I guess I don't have an issue with it. I have a third round grade on him myself. So, not a huge issue going to get him. I've got some questions about him, but I also don't view him as an X. I know a lot of people do. I view him as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think if you put him in an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of usage, that's what you're going to get because he's an excellent space finder. He's an excellent space finder. Pre-snap, post-snap. He's very good at that. He can win on the outside, but you can suffocate him. You can suffocate him. He doesn't always get open immediately within his route against man coverage. So I would put him in that role myself. And considering the Chiefs currently have one now in Rashee Rice, I know that may be a sensitive topic. You could overlap a little bit in terms of how they want to use. But again, we don't know how they want to use going forward. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Hey, I will roll with it because I have not seen him yet. So, hey. At that point, they'd have to have the right tackle combination up front, but I can live with it. Ain't going to scare me none.
Yeah. No.
James, can you see the rugby player being our fullback? It's an interesting question. I think there's going to be a transition. And let me be very, very clear about this kid. And I can't even pronounce his last name correctly. But I think he calls his name Louis, not Lewis, right? If he calls himself Louis, then I'm going to call him Louis. Okay. He's an experiment. I know he's an excellent athlete in his sport, but this isn't a one-to-one thing. I look at his build and I question whether he's here for the longevity of it, whether he can take the pounding. I think training camp is going to be really interesting for him. In specifically, I think there's way less physical wear and tear on a wide receiver or even a tailback than there is a fullback. So while I would love that, James, I'm not sure I can see plugging him into that role. Maybe I'm wrong, Dan. Do you have a different take?
No, I love that take. I don't think you want to bring him over just because you played rugby and say, hey, we're just going to line you up as a fullback and you're going to pound guys into the ground. That's not how you want to use him, specifically because he's a speed-based player still. Yes, he's physical, but he's a speed-based player. You want to get him in space. So again, this is assuming he makes the roster, guys. This is not a guaranteed thing because he's never played American football. It's very different. If he makes the roster, I see him as a space player. 100% goodbye to Kadarius Toney. That's what I see him if he makes this roster. He takes over for what Kadarius Toney did if he can catch the football. That's what he does.
I have dreams, and I've been trying not to get excited about this because I do enjoy watching rugby. He's a wildcat quarterback to me because his pitches don't have to go to a tailback. They can go to wide receivers. That's how far he can pitch that ball.
I posted a clip from SDSU, South Dakota State football, of a 4th and 1, where it is kind of a wildcat, but they pitch it all the way out to the left boundary. He could stand and do it. He could just stand there and do it on a 4th and 1. You could do so many different things with his pitching. So again, first he has to make the roster. Okay, that's not just assume that that's going to happen. Got to get through training camp. He has to make the roster. Do that first, then we can really talk about what his role is. But I would think that he does a lot of the things that Kadarius Toney does in terms of space.
I like it. I like handing off to him out of a shotgun and let him run the option.
Yeah.
Don't let Patrick do it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things he can do. Like you said, Kadarius is all over the place. He can do a lot of those things. But got to get through even OTAs to see if you can understand the spacing and the speed of this game. Rugby's a hell of a lot of fun, but it's just a different animal.
Yeah.
How soon can the teams negotiate with UFL players? I believe there's a minimum 4 weeks in the UFL before their contracts are voidable or whatever. They can negotiate. I'm sure they have agents and they're all doing that. But I just don't know about with the actual players. Do you have any idea on that, Dan?
I've got zero idea. I think it would be after the season.
I don't think that it is. I think that there was a call-up scenario last year. But again, this is the first season of that. That was the other league, so maybe the bylaws are different. I honestly don't know. But Doc, that's a great question, and we'll try to see if we can find the answer for you. Ruthless, nice to see you. My daily Q&A RGR draft comparison. What's the similarities between Vita Vea and Devondre Sweat? Whew. First step, and honestly, pad level stands out to me quite dramatically. But
I think the lateral agility is there for both of them. The big difference for me is that Vita Vea could play in the 4th quarter and the second half. Something that Devondre Sweat has yet to be able to show that he can do. So they're not too different in terms of the run stopping. I think that they both offer pass rush upside, and Vita's, again, it's just in much better condition. So if Devondre is going to be able to play up to that kind of building, he's going to have to lose 20 pounds plus. And then consistently make it through training camps and be able to do what these NFL players do. And I don't see that because weight's a concern for him. He put on weight. He didn't get tested at the Senior Bowl because he was probably pushing 380.
Right.
We're talking about a guy who was pushing 380 probably. And then came in
at the pro day that he was 365, right? That was an improvement.
Yeah, that was an improvement. So, I mean, it's a problem. It is.
Yeah, you got to get it under control. But that's what stands out. That said, Chris Jones and Charles like him. Okay. I can see him making their lives easier, and I like that concept. So I'm not ruling it out, that's for sure. I think PFF is probably low on him as he's going where the Chiefs can get him at 64. I'm not sure that actually works out, but we'll see. Byron is definitely the better prospect in my mind, but that's okay. Thanks, buddy. JC, I'm sorry. I'm slow on this, you guys. LRZ, I should have put this with the other one. That is this Welsh rugby player, and you guys are nicknaming him faster than I can keep up, so I'm sorry. Apologies. I haven't seen, other than just like not even 2-minute highlight clip of him playing rugby. Have you?
I've seen a couple of them. Dude's fast. He's been clocked at about, I don't believe the 24 miles an hour clock stuff, but even if I did, in comparison to, say a guy like Tyreek Hill who maxed out 22, they've got pads on and stuff like that. I don't believe that he can get up to 24 miles per hour myself, but I still think he could get like 21, 22, and that's, on a rugby field. You put some pads on him. We're talking a 20 plus mile per hour guy with size and strength. And I think that's just fun. And maybe you can put some more weight on him and just use the explosiveness, because he's got long speed, but I think that he's an explosive athlete. And that's what you want to, that's why the Chiefs brought him in. They want explosiveness, and that's what they're trying to, going back to last week when we talked about our definitions of explosivity. He's kind of like that definition. You want to, especially in today's game where they're putting tops on, explode underneath, create big plays from underneath. Get those 15, 20 yards gains with explosiveness underneath, and he can help that if he makes the roster.
I'm 100% with you. And I hope that it's there. I love the concept. I love how Andy generally thinks outside the box, things like that. That's something to remind my kids to be multi-sport athletes too. You know what I mean? Brandon, thanks for the support, buddy. I didn't see a question, but I'll go back and check.
It's right here.
Oh, perfect. Dan had it all ready. Meant to put this in my notes. But I'm having Nazi on my podcast very soon. What are some things you guys would like me to ask him, or something you want to know? I mean, honestly, the one thing that I need to know about Nazi is how he feels. That's where I'm at. Like, where's he at in his training? Can he run? Most importantly, can he cut? And can he backpedal? Those are all sheer force logistics that are part of a progression of a corner returning to play.
I want to know what he brings to the cornerback room that Josh Williams and Jalen Watson don't. That's what I want to know, because we haven't got to see it. But we know that, I mean, he was apparently on pace to start last year. So if that is true, that's something I'd also like to know. And if it is, what is he doing that they're not doing? Something tells me it's got to do with change of direction and physicality in the stem and in the entire route process, and not getting beat deep.
Those are all good questions. So, Brandon, congrats on getting him on. I look forward to seeing that. Make sure you drop us a note on where it is, and tell him we said hi. We'd love to talk to him too.
For sure.
What's the highest value, the highest that the Chiefs could trade up in the draft, meaning is a realistic sense of the right player falls? Is it worth selling a part of the farm to make that make sense? I've been looking at scenarios where you use the third round pick from next year. That doesn't get you into 12 plus. Usually it doesn't get you past 16 is the best that I've been able to accomplish. And quite frankly, I think that's probably even a little bit overly optimistic. I think you can get to 20 or 22 with that third round pick. Anything beyond that, you're talking at least a 2, and maybe even you want to get up to 12 or 10, you're talking 2 number ones.
Yeah, you're exactly. And the Chiefs don't necessarily have the ability to do that. So I would be looking around 20, 23, 21, 22 in that area as the most they could probably get to. And that would have to be reliant on teams willing to be trading with the Chiefs.
I'm with you.
And we've seen that come into play last year. They were unable to trade up because teams said no. And that's kind of what they're going to have to deal with. They're a back-to-back Super Bowls, and they're going to be going for the three-peat. And do you think teams are going to be like, yeah, let's go ahead and let them come up and get the player they want? Because that makes a lot of sense, right?
I like that you said this, DC, and that's definitely what they're banking on. The question is the injury and whether that's still there. So that's going to be important. I just wanted to point that out because I saw it. That said, Thundarius, nice to see you, and good beer videos. I like those, buddy. We should actually collaborate. We should talk about doing something because I've, thanks to Dan and another friend of ours that met somebody that in Mobile, I might be changing the format of the craft beer show. So we should talk. Unrelated, what is your favorite football movie? So we're going to do this. I'm going to write it down so I can clip this out later at 4:43 minutes. What is your favorite football movie, Dan, or do you have to debate them?
No, I'm super chalk, guys. I am super chalk. It's the only thing that does it for me. I have a lot of favorite ones, but let's break this up really quickly because I've got some categories. Let's go 100% chalk as the first one. Remember the Titans will always be my favorite football movie of all time. All time. There's zero questions about it. For me, it's a tier above every other football movie ever made. Let's go over to like comedic stuff because there are some funny ones out there. The Replacements is a beautiful movie. I love The Waterboy. It's fantastic. What The Replacements represents of an entire football league that's created from we've seen strikes happen, and that. Oh, did I drop out there?
No, you're good. You're good. It's me.
Okay, I got a little notification up on my thing saying we were I was a little Wi-Fi low. So The Replacements is there for me for sure. I also just love Keanu Reeves. Like I just love Keanu Reeves. And then we'll do like the last one will be more of like the sentimental, like radio. I know it's football and basketball, but what Cuba Gooding Jr. does in that movie might be the best acting performance of any football movie ever made. It's incredible. I love it so much. It's heartfelt. It's great. The acting is fantastic. I don't know, man. I got lots of takes on football movies.
Well, I will go a little bit different. You named two of the ones that I probably would have brought up myself. So well done. Personally, because I have a connection, one of my friends actually, it was his first major role in a movie in Any Given Sunday. And a lot of guys that he played with, both in college and in the league, are in that movie.
Yeah.
My buddy got to spend time with LT, which has been on my bucket list for a long, long time. So, like, that's one for me. I agree
awesome.
with you on the replacements. Remember the Titans makes me cry, and I'm a full grown man. I'm open to crying.
Radio does it for me too.
Yeah,
both of them. I do it for both.
I'm trying to think of comedic ones are tough for me because I always come away wanting more actual football action.
Varsity Blues is one of those. Varsity Blues is funny.
Is that?
You've never heard of Varsity Blues?
Oh no! I'm that line from Varsity Blues.
Oh, okay, I was like, I'm sorry, it was just a little off the track there.
No, I just can't use the whole line because there's a bleep.
Yeah, that's right.
One of my favorite lines.
I love Varsity Blues too. It's a great one.
Shout out to Kel Watron. I don't think Kel's watching, but my high school quarterback is one of the quarterbacks in the replacements. He's one of the opposing guys. Yeah. So his claim to fame, and I love seeing him on there. So Kel, if you ever see this, welcome.
This one's good too. This one's a fantastic one too. This is an underrated football movie right here. We Are Marshall with Matthew McConaughey. Oh God, that's
and
a good
dude
movie
from
too.
Lost.
So
right,
I can't remember. It's Matthew Fox. Matthew Fox is who it is. That's a fantastic story. Great movie. Just very good pull there, Nikki. I appreciate that.
Well done. Well done. I also like the original North Dallas 40. I'm old, so I kind of dig the oldies. It's okay. But great question.
I'm not a Rudy fan. Everyone says Rudy. I don't like Rudy. I think I was boring.
I think Rudy's a great story, but it's not a football story. It just happens to be set in football.
That's true. I mean? That's true.
But hey, I should make my kids watch that, and that'd be good for them. Thank you, Thundarius. Great question. Apologies if this is covered. Minotaur, you don't have to apologize for anything because you keep giving everybody memberships, and we appreciate you. So thank you very much. If covered recently, but Bakangi 32, how happy are you with that? And what do you think his ceiling would be? That's something we didn't address. So what do you think he can grow into, Dan? Not where he is now.
If his speed translates and he can be a deep threat too, he can be a guy that wins at all three levels of the field. Be a zone beater. He beats man. So we're talking about a guy who can play all the different positions, but I think he's a Z that would struggle with more physical contact. I think he can get bumped off his route. I think you can push him towards the sideline and out of the way, but I do think that through contact is not his best. So you want to keep him away from that. You want to motion him, keep him as a Z, but he'd be a legitimate Z. But I think a number 2 receiver is what you're looking at. I don't see a true number 1.
Shout out to Randy Watson with Necessary Roughness. I'm a Scott Bakula fan in general, so until he got to the NCIS stuff. But anyway, cheers to you.
Fair.
Let's see. Mr. Amenahue. Des, thanks for this one, buddy. When is he expected back? Very, very good question. Because of the late nature of when that happened, the timeline looks like he should be getting back to competition, able to train around the end of training camp, beginning of the season. For a normal guy. I don't know if it's drastic. He felt he could have played the Super Bowl. So I think if it's repaired and he's just a guy that heals quicker, I don't know. We don't have any update. At least I haven't seen anything in terms of physical update on him.
No idea. 0.
Okay.
Sorry, Des. I wish we had more. We just don't.
Yeah, me too.
Appreciate the support as always.
If we didn't draft Isaac Garendo, who do the Chiefs draft? So running back target late. What do you like?
Late, man. Oh, jeez. I love so many of these running backs. Like I'm trying to I'm gonna talk myself into drafting Trey Benson on day 2. Like he's so good. Oh, but I can't do that with the things that the Chiefs have. So going to day 3, you've got a couple of smaller guys. Like I like Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving makes sense to pair with a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, that tough physical runner, and you give him a compliment, good pass catcher, quick guy that goes 0 to 60 pretty quickly. I love Frank Gore Jr. Frank Gore Jr. is a fast guy, but he played quarterback at Southern Miss too, and wide receiver. We're talking about a guy who played 3 different positions at college. So I think that he would be able to come in and honestly use some of his pedigree. Dude he's earned everything he's gotten in the NFL. So I love that. And then a little bit of a different typical guy, Dylan Johnson out of Washington, bigger, physical, underrated footwork in my opinion, and he played through injury in the entire postseason. Like he was fighting through that foot injury, and that was a legit foot injury. So he's got a lot of grit as well. Those are 3 guys on day 3 I think will be available and can help the Chiefs in the running back room.
I love the Johnson pick. I think the injury is going to set him back on a lot of boards, so he could be a guy that gets taken in the area in the 7th, like Isaiah was. I love that combination. Yep. Great call there. Thanks, Gary. Thank you as always. Everybody give Gary a hand for being our mod. We appreciate you, buddy. One more question. Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate the support as well. Brendan Rice, 3rd round. At 95, I can see that as a possibility. I'd rather wait a little bit. I'd rather trade back in day 4 and do it, but I could live with it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it. Again, if they're going to take a wide receiver on day 3, or excuse me, on day 2, and it's going to be at the end in the 3rd round, Brendan Rice makes a lot of sense. Big physical guy. I think he's a better short area player than he gets credit for because he's long. He's big, but he's not going to he's not a great route runner. Like I'm pretty sure I comped him to Gabe Davis. He's got more upside as a route runner than I think Gabe Davis does, but there's that similar play style, and he's not really guy that drops stuff. He will force some penalties too. He will play through physicality and put it back tenfold. So I like that as well.
Yeah, I can get down with that. I don't put a lot of stock in a name, but for both these guys, there's a lot of juniors coming out in this class, and there is something to be said for that experience level. So maybe it's not the same physicality, but see what they can do when they get in the league. I'm ready to take a flyer. Thanks, Donnie. Thank you, PK. Davis Mock, Mims, the tackle from Georgia at 32. I don't know who Davis is either. But was it Charles Davis maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
Mocking Amarius Mims to the Chiefs at 32. I think that's viable. I find it really interesting, and I keep drawing this conclusion. Mims has been hurt and hasn't participated and hasn't been asked to do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't get any credit from analysts. I think the teams respect that. There are other players in this draft who have not been asked to do a whole lot and are getting run up boards by the media. And I think there's a very big difference. I think Mims is all upside. I don't think he's much of a floor. He could be a risk there, but he could be a hell of a ceiling too.
I personally think he's one of the best pass protectors in the draft. Like I think his pass sets are fantastic. His hand usage is great. His hand carriage, which those are how high you carry your hands. If they're down by your sides, well, guess what? You're done. You're dead. So he carries them up and he's ready. So from a purely Chiefs perspective, I also think he's athletic enough to play left tackle. I think there's 0 questions about that in my mind. So if you wanted to draft him and let him be the left tackle, but also again, sit him, not immediately be the starter. You have ways of going about that. So I think that anyone that they draft at 32, unless they win the starting job outright, would have the ability to come in and learn. And then that's best case scenario.
I'm going to look him up real quick because when Broderick Jones had to miss time at left tackle last year, I thought he got some reps, but I can't swear to that. So I'm going to look that up real quick as we go.
I know he played in that Ohio State game and he was like the best player. I can't remember for whatever reason if it was left or right tackle.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to look here. Take Covered Bridge Homestead.
All right, man. Thank you for your question. If we all think we'll be picking the past 30 yearly. At what point do you identify your left tackle and trade 32 in next year's one to go up and get him? That gets you to a top 12 pick, correct? It depends, because if you are, again, thinking you're going to be drafting in the 30s both years, I don't know if teams are going to be like, yeah, let's pick 30 this year and 30 next year for these ones to let the Chiefs go up and get this pick specifically. So I don't know if you can get that high based off of their picks in the 30s, but also they want to develop their roster and they don't want to sacrifice future firsts, even if they're going to be in the 30s, to go up and get a guy. Yes, maybe he is your guy, but you're not getting a blue chip guy necessarily unless you can get into the top 10. If Olu falls out of the top 10 and you can get to 12 with those two, okay, sure, go ahead and go try and do that. But at the same time, it's still a risk. Like, you're still risking a next year's first round pick on a guy who might not pan out.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing about this draft is I think there's going to be a lot of action around 11.
Yeah.
So while all that's going on, the Chiefs could sneak in and get something done with somebody.
Maybe. You never know. But those quarterback talks, you might be able to help yourself.
Absolutely. And I was 100% wrong on Amarius Mims. He's no recorded left tackle snaps in the last 3 years. So my fault. Nikki, Matt Derek's co-host, Nick Jacobs, can't remember his name. I'm sorry. It's Nick Jacobs, is very high on the Yale tackle. Well, Nick's very lucky if he's gotten film of him, and I want to talk to Nick.
Yeah, I'd be very interested if he's got tape on him, because Brandon Thorne isn't even breaking down stuff on him. So something tells me that Yale tape is locked up pretty tight, but good for the information, I guess.
And by the way, Nick is not only co-host of that show with Matt Derek, good pal of mine, but also is a producer at 41. So I wonder if there's a TV hookup he might have. I'm going to have to ping the both of them and see if we can get something a little bit. Thank you, Nikki.
Do it.
I hadn't heard that, so cheers. What's up, Brenda? I'm late. I'll go back and catch the first part later. Rock on.
All right,
I'm glad
cool.
that you're
Thank
here.
you, Brenda.
Wonderful to see you. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on Leggett from South Carolina, and do you think that he could fit in this roster? Dan,
I highlighted this. I highlighted this question, Jonathan, because it just so happens that last Wednesday I did a full breakdown of Xavier Leggett. I break down his fit in the roster, what he does well, things he's working on, and why he's still an option at number 32 for the Chiefs because of his upside. So go ahead, check it out if you got time. It's like 25 minutes. It's not that long. Appreciate the support.
It's nothing. It's a hockey intermission. It's fine. Awesome. Abba, would you rather pick Braden Fisk? I assume you mean in the first, or Brandon Dorless in the third, because Fisk is not a third round player. I have Dorless barely on the fringe of the third. I think he could even be a day 3 guy. Fisk is the better player. He's the better penetrator. I think Dorless is surprisingly resilient and versatile, though. I just don't think he's a master of anything.
Yeah, he's kind of like Mike Dana coming out in the sense that he's long, he's physical, and he is much more explosive. He's a penetrator. He holds up better than I expected him to. But when he hits that first step, he clears guys. And his Senior Bowl was very good. I have him in the third round myself. So I'd like to draft him in the third round. If he's at number 94, 96, that'd be nice. But that's how I see that. But Fisk is going on in the second round for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he gets out of the top 50, to tell you the truth. Tracy, nice to see you, and thanks for being with us. You probably won't hear this, but anyway, I'll say it out loud anyway. Let's see. Cameron, are you guys familiar with college basketball? Somewhat. DJ Burns, oh yeah, he's the talk of the town today. Has been getting some interest from NFL teams. I wanted to see if you guys had an opinion on him. I have not watched enough of it because I get pissed off when KU loses, so I don't watch the rest of the tournament. But I've seen the highlights. Yeah, he's an athletic dude. The transition from basketball to football is not unheard of. So I don't blame, just like the Chiefs are going to go get a rugby player. I don't blame NFL teams from being like, hey, you want to come try out for us and see what you can do?
Jeez.
But playing low post ain't playing along the defensive front.
No. And Caitlin Clark is going for 40 right now. She is dropping an incredibly big number on LSU. And there's almost 0% chance if DJ is going to be getting legitimate looks from the NBA that he's going to play in the NFL. less wear and tear, far more guaranteed money. And these big men at those size do not always translate to the NFL as well. So you're going to have to take less money earlier to be able to pay that off in the NFL, especially for a guy who's never played. So,
yeah, it's a tough one. But hey, you know what? Athletes are athletes. They might as well take a look.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. Thank you, though, Cameron. Appreciate you. Greg, will the Houston offensive tackle make it to 64? Patrick Paul, yeah, I think that he will. I have him higher than PFF does, certainly for the mock machine. But I do have him in the high 60s, 70s-ish, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late second, early third. I think he'll be there. I don't necessarily know if I'd take him, though.
Yeah. At 64, I would be a little hesitant. If I move back to 68, sure. And there's a difference there. Hope you're doing well, Pono. Alt is good, but give up way too much. Okay, over on the Locked On Chiefs show. Yeah, I don't disagree, but honestly, to get up to 8, which is the scenario that Chris put out there, the going price is 2 2s if you're coming up 24 spots from 32 to 8. Shut up, Siri. Nobody asked you. Sorry. Apologies, folks. It is a lot, but if you want to do that, 2 number ones is definitely something teams are going to be asking for.
I don't know how teams are going to value 32 and 30 picks. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to get up nearly that far with 2 firsts. I don't think it's possible. And you're going to have to give up multiple. Like, teams have to give up 3 firsts to move from 15 to 3. It's a completely different scenario. Like,
in that scenario Chris presented, it included the 3rd rounder from Tennessee as well.
And that's still, in my opinion, isn't even enough.
Yeah, it might be light. I mean, every year's a little bit different. You know,
Yeah.
When you look at Mahomes, it was something like that to get up to 10, right? But they were coming from 28. So it wasn't quite as big a jump.
All right, guys, I do apologize. It is my wife's birthday, so I'm going to kick off at the hour mark here and
do it.
Go spend some time with her tonight.
Nice.
I appreciate all the support as always. I will. I'll make sure to do that. And I know I've seen a couple of other ones in here, thanks to my father. But I appreciate you guys very much, and I'm sorry to leave you with 6 questions left here, Ryan. But I have some things I got to take care of. Appreciate you guys.
No worries. We will break it out. Have a good time and enjoy the family time.
Thank you very much. I'll see you guys later.
All right, bud. Move along if you've already addressed it. Appreciate that, Brett. Do you think that the new kickoff rules, we just knock it through the uprights, just give the ball to the opposition at the 30? What's the play? That's what it seems like to me. Honestly, somebody will come up with a little wrinkle. I just don't know if it's worth the effort. And in the end, I think the known quantity of just putting it out so that you know where it's going to be, I think that builds in the game plans a little easier. So that's that. I agree. I think that's kind of what I think happens. Stevie, nice to see you. Thank you, Scuba. What do you consider a true number 1 receiver, and what makes someone a number 1? For me, it means that they demand coverage, that they have to either put their number 1 corner on you or they have to double you. That's what a true number 1 is for me. And until then, you only have number 2s. You might have 3 number 2s, but until you have one guy that says, defensive coordinator, you have to take me out of the ball game by doing one of those 2 things, that's kind of where I draw the line. I know that's subjective, but that's kind of the way that I read it. DC, I like Estimate more than Irving. I like Estimate too. I think they're probably 6-1, obviously very different. Estimate did run a nice faster time at his pro day, so I think more teams are going to be more comfortable with him. Trevor, besides wide receiver, what should we double up on in the draft? I mean, if you take it away from just tackle, we could easily see the Chiefs double up on offensive line. In fact, I would suggest that they do. Should they take 2 tackles? I don't know that there's enough depth to warrant that in this draft, especially if they go tackle in round 1. But if they wait, if they decide and they come back with a 2nd-round tackle, maybe that makes it so you could do that. I could also see them just trying to bolster across the O-line with a tackle and a guard, or a guy like Pooney that can play multiple positions inside. I like that one. Thanks, Trevor. Thank you again, Scuba. What makes someone a true number one in your opinion? Sorry, I was just slow getting to it, buddy. Appreciate the support, though. Beyond what I said earlier, I would also say that when you're making that determination in the draft, I have to see that their current game is not maxed out. I think that's the difference that we've seen in the Ohio State guys from a couple of years ago. Olave versus Wilson. There was a lot of debate then, right? I had Wilson slightly ahead because he had upside. And while they're both playing very well, I feel like Olave's game is still more similar to his college game than Wilson's is. So I think part of that becomes about not only are you a number one in stressing the defense, but can you take your game up another level yet? That's kind of where I would take that to. Thanks, Scuba. And thank you, PK. Best sports movies, Major League, Remember the Titans. I mean, Major League it's a classic. I still quote that thing today. In fact, no one gets to listen to me talk to my brother because most of it is just code of movie lines that we've seen together. So appreciate the support. Thank you very much. We're going to look for a last second here, but Monitor, I want to see you, especially when KU loses a game they didn't show up for. I absolutely agree with you. That's a tough one. Happy birthday to Mama. Appreciate that. Everybody being understanding here, and thank you for that. And looks like she is going for 40. So I would not take the Houston OT, Greg, at 32. He does not warrant 32. That's Patrick Paul. The guy that I think might be able to fall and be available there is Guyton, but he seems to be very popular, at least in the mocks. I don't know if the teams feel that way. I see Guyton as a better prospect, but a similar prospect in terms of lower body prowess that the Chiefs like and can build on. So thank you guys for that. That's going to wrap it up for us. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. You can grab the RGR gear in the store if you guys want to get into that. We have plenty more coming. It's draft cycle. I'm spending late nights getting the draft guide ready, getting the Athletic Matrix next version ready. The initial matrix is out. You guys can go get that now. You download that, use the code RGR, gets you a nice discount. And then as soon as I update it and the new version comes out, you can re-download it as part of the original cost. Not a big deal. And then also I'm coming on the draft guide, starting in to build the pages now as we're starting to get position groups checked off the map. So we are going to be on time for our usual release, which our goal is always 2 weeks before the draft. Sometimes we get to 10 days if we're stretching, but I think we're still going to be okay. And we're going to be about 2 weeks out. So get ready for that. I appreciate you guys being here. Enjoy your Monday night. We'll be back with you tomorrow. I have a GM joining me tomorrow. Don't miss that show. Dan's got film on Wednesday. Gary's back on Thursday. And then we'll do something fun or crazy on Friday. So don't miss it. 5 days a week, you're going to find us. And I appreciate you guys for being here. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time.